Well, astonishing visuals of loot and plunder are coming in from Los Angeles County. United States railway tracks filled with empty cartons and packages are making it to every user's feed on social media. The visuals on your screens now as we speak are from a nation that prides itself in being the greatest. Since December of 2020, cases of loot and plunder on the Los Angeles railway line have gone up by 160%. Despite surveillance measures, nothing seems to be stopping the plunderers who wait until the long freight trains are immobilized on the tracks and then climb onto the freight containers, whose locks they easily break with the help of bolt cutters. They then help themselves to parcels, ditching any products that are difficult to move or resell or are too cheap, such as COVID-19 test kits, furniture or medications. According to LA Operations estimates that damages from such thefts in 2021 amounted to some $5 million. While organizations such as the New York Times blatantly mock India on its space plans, it seems domestically the nation is struggling with Los Angeles. And joining us at this point is Ambassador Deepak Vora, former diplomat. We also have Preity Upala, editor of The Observer and geopolitical analyst, live with us. Sri Iyer, founder P-Guru and foreign policy analyst, joins us live. Also with us is Gautam Mukherjee, senior journalist. Professor Madhav Nalapat, editorial director of the Sunday Guardian, also is joining us on the program. Let me begin with you first, Sri Iyer. What's really transpiring there in Los Angeles and how is it being taken?
All this is because of the progressives of the Democratic Party. They are running amok and bless you. One of the challenges that is happening is that, all these other movements you had, defund police and so on and so forth. Now you are beginning to see a reflection of that. And policing has come down. In fact, in cities like San Francisco, Seattle, the police will not even register a theft of less than $900. In other words, somebody walks up to a department store, puts things in on his handbag and then walks out. Police is not even registering a complaint. From somewhere, they've come up with this number that we will not register a complaint if the amount is less than $900. And likewise, I think that Amazon, the freight trains that are carrying these goods are probably, somebody must have leaked the information and these guys know exactly when that happens. Somebody clearly is hacking the traffic signaling so that the thing comes to a complete standstill and then they go in with bolt cutters and clean it out. There's another bigger problem, Uday, and that is that whenever either FedEx or UPS or Amazon drop something at your doorstep, you have to actually watch it like a hawk, and you have to go and get it right away because there are cars just following these things. This is a real thing happening in my town of San Jose. San Jose is perhaps the 10th largest city in US. It is considered the safest in the top 10. And that is what is the fate right now because these people are brazen. They think that nobody will catch them. I mean, I have supplied video camera footage of things being stolen and the police just told me that I hope you have insurance. This is the kind of response I'm getting. So this whole anarchy has started 5-6 years ago and it is really running amok. And it is very, very crass of the NPR reporter to say that it feels like India and she's supposed to be covering India. By the way, NPR is the woke poster media. They will go and find some obscure Khalistani sympathizer and take that person's interview for 25 minutes and they won't even give any time for anybody who may come up with a more reality-based truth in Punjab. This is how it is in NPR. It's very unfortunate, but we have to live with it. We have to rebut it as strongly as we can with facts.
Yes, absolutely. And the fact, of course, also here is Professor Nalapat, that this is loot, this is plunder, this is, complete mayhem happening there in a city that prides itself as being the greatest in a country that says it's the most developed nation of the world. But yet this is what is happening there. What introspection is needed for the US and of course for that region in California?
Well, I'd like to say that this is what Sri Iyer is describing is quite shocking, that you are basically anything below $900, which is almost 70,000 rupees, would not really count as a theft. And the point is, the people will graduate. You do 5 or 6 thefts of below $900, and then your next theft becomes much bigger. And from theft, you go on to murder. So street violence, murder. So very frankly, this is the reason why it is very likely the Republicans are going to come to power in the midterms. Republicans, frankly, have a lot of problems, especially their acknowledged leader, Donald Trump. But the reality is that nobody wants to live in this kind of a neighborhood. As far as this lady is concerned, the poor lady, I remember we discussed long back, some lady who was involved in some internet startup who made some nasty comments about India. And finally, it was tracked to the fact that there were too many Indians out there who were very successful. And she just couldn't bear it, that so many Indians were successful. So quite possibly this poor lady has also met a lot of Indians. You have Sri Iyer, for example. She may have come across him in some supermarket store. And who are Preity, for example, who are doing exceptionally well, who are model citizens, and who very definitely, I can tell you, are not going to be involved in this Amazon looting or any kind of looting. The Indian community has the lowest rate in terms of percentage of imprisonment in the US. And so this poor lady, something would have snapped in her, because she must be used to stereotypes. And the stereotype is, the Indian, absolutely dirty, smelly, unsocial individual who does all these bad things. And India, a country like that, if NPR has chosen this kind of lady with this kind of mindset to be its reporter on India, well, I would only like to say, this is not only a woke channel, it's woke on steroids.
Let me take this across to Ambassador Deepak Vora as well at this point. Ambassador Deepak Vora, what's shocking is, of course, the nature of this incident, but also the kind of reactions that have been coming in. There's this senior journalist from the United States who saw these pictures and tweeted that she thought this was India. That's her tweet, which she's now obviously pulled down because of backlash, saying that it was insensitive now that she thinks it's true. Why do people in the United States, to such journalists there, still have this mindset?
Thank you very much, Mr. Manoj. Always a pleasure to interact with you, with Ms. Upala, with Mr. Mukherjee, with Professor Nanapat, with Mr. Iyer. You are the best. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Well, let me just put it to you like this, that racism is a recurrent issue in nations that revel in arrogance and in an exceptionalism make-believe world. So how do you accept the fact that till 75 years ago, this country was run by somebody else, ruled by somebody else, but now they are on top of the world? So I remind you, I think Professor Nanapat might remember that, was it in the end of the 90s, I think 1999, there used to be a character called the Duke of Edinburgh. And he said something while visiting a factory in Edinburgh. He said, "Oh, look at this fuse box bursting with wires. Looks like it was put together by an Indian." Now, that kind of arrogance has continued, and I believe he apologized profusely for his remark. This woman who has said this, she's obviously served in India, according to what I've been able to understand. And that's why she said, she was in Mumbai, and that's why she says that it reminded her of India. Obviously, she was looking for what she wanted to see. She wasn't able to see all the good things about Mumbai. Now, what Sri Iyer just referred to, sir, about doorstep theft, that is a growing phenomenon where a package is delivered to you by one of the delivery things and somebody walks away with it. I also remember, Professor Nalapat, correct me if I'm wrong, 2 or 3 years ago, there was an NPR producer, a lady called Miss Khan or Miss Ahmed or something like that. And she tweeted that Hindus, I'm sorry, I'll have to quote this. She said they drink urine and they worship dung, and they should give up Hindus. Then she fell at everybody's feet in the neighborhood and begged for forgiveness, but she was sacked. She couldn't save her job. Now we have these kind of jokers, tormented souls coming from time to time. And I believe that what this woman has tweeted, and she has taken it down given the backlash, which also shows the positive power of the social media, that you do these funny things, you can't get away with it. Before the social media, you could say what you wanted. People would write letters and send emails. You could ignore them. But now you are called out in public. So I believe that this expresses both the weakness of the American system, the propensity to racism, and its strength, that racists are called out and punished, at least socially. So I believe we should acknowledge and appreciate the positive while condemning the negative.
Okay. Preity Upala, obviously this is something that is absolutely shocking, what's transpiring there, these visuals, of course, Preity, and what do you really say of this mindset that compares it with India? They try and ridicule us, they try and pick stories of India up, of course, and headline them in publications like the New York Times and, the Herald Tribune abroad. But this will perhaps not be covered with the same kind of headlines, the same kind of outrage, will it?
Namaste, Mr. Singh. Happy New Year to all of your viewers. Thank you for having me on your show. It's a pleasure always. I actually happen to be living in Los Angeles. This is my city. And I have to say those images are not an exaggeration. In downtown LA is very much like that. It has been for a while. And we try to cover it up with Hollywood and all other good stuff. But I think the truth always comes up. And I also just want to say that I've just returned from a trip to India, of all places. I spent quite a bit of time in Hyderabad, in the high-tech city. And I have to say, I did not see anything like that, anything remotely like that in India. In fact, some roads in parts of Hyderabad are much better than the roads that we have back here. So this lady, I think, really needs a reality check. It is unfortunate that she is the correspondent, I believe, for India, for NPR. So unfortunately, the reporting out of India will be of this nature. Again, just as everybody has suggested, the power of social media, this is where we do push back, and I'm proud to see our community and Indians in India and in America coming together and really going for it. I think we're not shy about pushing back and, complaining and outrage, whatever we have to do. And it's working. I have seen, I think globally it's working. And I hope that they get correspondents who reflect, whatever they're supposed to report in an unbiased manner. I have to say that there's been a recent article that NPR itself is struggling. Its ratings are at an all-time low, so perhaps we don't have to worry about outlets like that. And we've seen several of outlets of this ilk. I think they're really losing their own viewership because of, they're not making everybody happy with sort of their bent. And I think they're upsetting too many people. You're back to your question. Luckily, people in LA are not going to read this. Some Indian Americans, some NRIs might read it. They're upset. But the average Californian, they have a very positive view of India, and they're not seeing this headline and thinking, oh my God, is India really like this? Because thanks to, we have the CEOs and just Indians doing so well in the States, in politics and in all areas of life. I think we should keep fighting, keep rising, and keep pushing back. That's the important message I get. All of this, we have a voice, we have utility, we have agency as a community, and this would be the time to use it. So I really want to see much more of our voice being heard, and I'm pleased to see that the year has started with such a thing.
Gautam Mukherjee, there have been, of course, many such shameful moments in America. This is not the first, and certainly may not be the last. We've seen, of course, the Capitol riots. We've seen, of course, the anti-vaxxers protests, and now we're seeing loot and plunder. These incidents perhaps should cause the US to introspect. They like to point fingers at India. They like to mock India. They like to look at other nations with contempt, but shouldn't they look inwards? What is your first reaction looking at all of this, Gautam Mukherjee?
Yeah, it's water off a duck's back as far as I am concerned as an Indian, because we have the highest growth rate in the world. We have 1.40 billion people, but we do not loot railway vans, at least not regularly. This is the Wild West comeback. In the earlier days, the stereotype was, eat your food. There are people starving in India. I have to reverse that and say, eat your food. There are people starving in America, and that too in Los Angeles. This is ridiculous. What they are up to needs to be checked. It's a law and order issue. Casting slurs at old India, we might as well start talking about tigers and rope tricks and people lying on beds of nails, why not, But it's long gone. And it doesn't bother any Indian, but it seems to be bothering them because they are kind of descending to what we might have been 100 years ago.
Yes, clearly. Professor Nalapat, why this mocking though? Why this mocking by the United States? Why this mocking by journalists? Journalists are supposed to be educated. Journalists are supposed to be worldly wise. But yet a journalist saying this is India, it looks like India. Earlier too, of course, we've seen the kind of editorials that have been written in eminent publications there. Why this kind of behavior by journalists in the United States? What's their agenda?
Look, I'd like to say there's a very large industry out there that is knocking India, and this suits, frankly, the Chinese, because India and the United States are two biggest democracies. So you make Americans feel that India is a rotten country. There's no point being an ally of India. And then you make Indians feel America is a rotten country. There's no point, ever teaming up with a country as rotten as that. And then these two countries start drifting apart. This is frankly what the Chinese want. And I don't know whether NPR, has been influenced by the very substantial network of communist Chinese organizations in California. In the United States, yes. In California, very definitely. And many of us have come in direct contact with that kind of activity. I don't know about that. But the point is, yes, let us be honest. It is a fact that the Prime Minister has been talking several times and he has been working very hard to try and create a Swachh Bharat. But in different parts of the country, unfortunately, there is still some trash and litter. But if you go looking for trash, you can find trash anywhere. You name a city in the world which does not have trash, and I'll frankly say that you're a liar, because every city will have trash. This journalist is not a journalist. She's some kind of an advocate and supporting the Chinese line that India is a rotten country, that the Americans should not be in India and link up with India in any way. So very frankly, this is not journalism at all. And I want to say once again, it could be that. It could also be that she has seen so many Indians who are doing very well in the United States. And deep down inside her, she has the feeling that only those who come from a particular continent, Europe, should do well. And others, well, what on earth are they doing well for? Why are the people of Indian origin doing so exceptionally well in the United States? It could be some kind of subliminal feeling like that. All I can say is her mind is very clearly a mind which is full of prejudice. And if an editor has chosen her to look after a country that she obviously detests, 1.4 billion people, she's typecast. Well, that editor, I think, also needs looking into.
Okay. Well, let me also, in fact, quickly get in at this point, Sri Iyer. Sri Iyer, now, as far as, of course, this story is concerned, and, because you and Preity are, of course, in California right now, how is it being, responded to over there? What is the kind of, media reaction? What are the public of California saying? What are ordinary people on the streets saying about all of this?
Preity is spot on. People don't listen to NPR anymore. Even the wokes have moved on. And, whether it is TV or radio, people are no longer following it. There is more traffic on social media, and that's where people are getting their news. Of course, this will be played up by some people who have inimical interest towards India. But, you have to move on. But the fact remains that media has been penetrated by the left ecosystem, and they tend to use this toolkit like phenomenon. You saw, for example, BBC trashing India, then it was The Economist, and then yesterday it was CNN, and all this based on one meeting in which somebody uttered something intemperate. What about all the killings that have been taking place in Tamil Nadu and Kerala by members of the PFI, Popular Front of India? And they want to slap Islamophobic label on India. See, the point I'm trying to say again is the progressives part of the Democrats, they somehow have essentially hijacked the party's agenda. The moderates are fighting back. You're seeing a couple of senators standing up to Biden and saying no, even though the cause is a good one, by the way. The infrastructure is a good one. Bill is a good one. I'm sure Professor Nalapat will agree with me on that. But what happens is when you take a stand, it happens to be on the wrong thing. Whatever it is, the thing is, Democratic Party is losing itself. It is headed for a disaster in November. And then what happens is the Biden presidency is going to be a lame duck presidency. And, that would be it. I think it would be a single term president. But the damage that has been done is incalculable. Over 1.5 million feared to have come in without any papers, without checking for COVID. And now COVID is, taken over the whole country. There are new variants in US that are not found anywhere else in the world. So I'm sorry, I'm going all over the place, but the point I think is that India has weathered everything well, and there are people who probably don't like it. But as far as one-on-one is concerned, the average American has nothing but respect for Indians. They know and they feel like Indians work extra hard, very sincere, very honest to what they do. And that impression is not changing just because of one crass tweet.